And welcome to the CVB Super Show Selection Sunday Bracket Reveal Show. I am your host, Walter Waddell, aka Dub Deuces 85, the niche sports connoisseur, and I am joined by the red hot Adam, my editor extraordinaire. Man, he's had a great month. We are going to be doing the live reveal here. It's our annual show. So if you're around, make sure you're interacting with us, like the show, repost, retweet, all that good stuff. And anybody that wants to hop on and talk with us too as we're going on, feel free. I'll get you the link there. Basically just a chop it up session here. We're going to talk for a few minutes about some of the stuff we witnessed today, and then we'll just kind of give live reacts for each matchup and kind of go from there. So Adam, thank you for joining me. Appreciate you very much. How are things going? Purdue beating Michigan. Is it time to panic about Michigan? And what are some of your thoughts about anything else we saw today?
Yeah, it's definitely not time to panic about Michigan. I think Purdue probably played themselves onto the 2 line. I guess there's some question about some motivation with Michigan. They definitely did look motivated, and they were even fouling late. It looked like they did really want to win that game, but they knew in the back of their minds that they probably weren't playing for anything. So I wonder if that maybe impacted the game a little bit, whereas Purdue had some motivation to maybe move up the seed line. But no, I'm not panicking about Michigan. It was also a little bit of a good day for bubble teams because there weren't really any bid stealers. South Florida took care of business. VCU took care of business. So it'll be interesting to see. There's probably not going to be a team bumped off or out of the field today based on the results. But we'll see what happens with some of the other bubble teams in a moment.
Yeah, and that was the pretty much the only bid stealer left. Would have been Dayton, and they got handled there pretty easily. So the bubble teams can breathe a sigh of relief there. We didn't have quite the level of bid stealers that maybe we have seen in the past. This would have been the time for it. There was a pretty soft bubble or weak bubble, as I should say. Not really that confident in some of the teams that are going to get in. Would have opened the door for like a strong mid-major or, a team a la Oregon State or Georgetown a couple of years ago to really make a run. In years past when we've had bid stealers, there's been some really good teams that we liked and wanted to see them get in. And then, of course, they got ripped off. Now we've got, Auburn Twitter fighting with Mississippi Valley State Twitter, fighting with all these different Twitters here. We're about 5 minutes and 43 seconds out from the first part of the bracket reveal here. I want to kind of talk to you about Auburn. They're a team that a lot of people have been making fun of this week, and maybe rightfully so. Their administration and their coach certainly believe they belong in because they played so many Q1 games and have, quote unquote, the best win in college basketball history, if you listen to them, but for this year over Florida, which definitely holds up. But I think you got to do more than just play these games. I think you have to win some too. And there's a precedent here as teams with 16 plus losses don't typically get in. So what do you think about the state of Auburn and where they might be headed?
There's a couple teams in the SEC that have similar type of resumes, Oklahoma being another one. Sure, they won some big games, but you're going to walk into a couple wins just with the schedule that they have playing in the SEC. Sure, they have some signature wins as well, which is, plus in their favor, but they also have a ton of losses. And at some point, you almost have to draw the line and say, you lost too many games. You're in a tough conference. You won some big games, but at some point, what's the limit to the amount of games you're allowed to lose and then fall back on the argument that, well, we beat Florida, we beat this team. Of course. I mean, if you play 25 games against top tier opponents, you might win 3 or 4, which is more than some of the other bubble teams can say. But of course, they don't have the same schedule. So it's a bit of a balancing act. I would like to see, I've always been in favor of seeing more mid-major quality teams get in as opposed to Power 5 teams that are a bit more mediocre with resumes like Auburn and Oklahoma. So, but it does seem like the committee's been slightly favoring the Power 5 bubble teams of late. This will be a big test with, of course, Miami, Ohio, who probably is in, but if they don't get in for whatever reason, then we know that the committee must favor some specific metric, like quality wins, to allow these Power 5 teams in. But I don't think Auburn will get in. I think they will miss the cut. I think the same thing for Oklahoma. I think Miami will get in. San Diego State is the team that I'm wondering about the most, and they're a team I'd like to see in, and I actually truly believe they should. but I don't believe they will. I'm not sure if you feel the same
Yeah,
way.
it'll be close. I definitely think they can be competitive. I posted some stuff in the Discord this morning. Net rankings within the last couple of years, and they've had to kind of refine those because there were some teams that there was a tweet the other day. I can't remember who posted it, but like the first iteration of the net rankings had Colgate at like number 16 or something because they didn't have it all weighted correctly. That Colgate team was good, by the way. And now they're introducing the WAB, the wins above bubble metric, and supposedly the committee is going to be weighing that heavier than net. And I was looking at some stuff here and the potential, and they're really going to put the committee on the spot here because they're going to be proven to be liars and full of shit, for lack of a better term, if they don't seed this properly. And one being Miami, Ohio. Not only should they be in, but I don't think they should probably even be in Dayton for the play-in game. Now, if they weigh the wins above bubble as heavy as they say, I think Miami probably should be in like the 10 line. Whether that's the worst 10 seed, whatever, that's not that relevant. But if they don't, and it's more of a net based thing, then I think you'll see them probably be in the 11 and possibly even the play-in round. So we're there. I hope if that happens that the interviewers on CBS, kind of put them to the flame, and as they say, because I don't even think it should be a question. We should have a 2-bid MAC, and I'm really hoping that they do the right thing here. And Auburn, that's been the main discussion a lot, Auburn versus Miami, Ohio. Auburn's net currently is in the 38, 39 range. And then their wins above bubble, if I'm looking at that, is 44th. Now, Miami of Ohio's is 37th on that bubble metric. And there's a lot that goes into that. Theoretically, it's supposed to help, like, here's those quality wins. If they were to play this team, here's what we think would happen. Obviously, there's still some stuff going on there. And then the net ranking for Miami of Ohio is 64th. So traditionally, that would be a big danger zone. In those 60s there, it could be hit or miss. But if this WAB metric is weighed as heavily as they say, Miami should be safely in. With Dayton losing, it does kind of keep 5 spots open. We kind of were talking about this morning as well. I thought there was approximately 7 or 8 teams that were vying for those 5 spots. Really looks like UCF, Texas A&M, NC State, Santa Clara, who I think are all probably 4 in. Missouri, who if you look at the DK odds are in. Miami of Ohio, SMU, and obviously VCU got the automatic bid, so they don't have to worry about that now. And then you've got teams like Texas, who are right on the cusp. South Florida is in. We don't have to worry about them. And then you mentioned San Diego State, who is right on the cusp there. Auburn, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Indiana. I think it's safe to say Indiana is out. New Mexico's out. We think that New Mexico-San Diego State game the other night was probably a play, and you're possibly in, lose, and you're out. And then Oklahoma tried to make a nice run there. Ole Miss tried to make a nice run there in the SEC, but I think Oklahoma is going to fall just short. Looking at the net rankings for Oklahoma, they're 48th. And then the WAB metric for them is 49th. So they're probably not going to get in. San Diego State sitting at about 47th in WAB, or 47th in net, and 47th in net ranking. So pretty close there. I think as long as Indiana doesn't get in, they shouldn't be happy. I don't think Auburn should get in. I think Santa Clara is safely into the 10 line. Missouri should be safely in. For me, I think at this point, like, the play-in games at this 11 range should probably be Texas as one of them, SMU if they're going to get in, maybe Missouri, and then I'm a little bit up in the air on this last one. I could see UCF being like a 10 seed. I could see them being in the play-in. If San Diego State gets in, clearly they'll be a play-in. We could possibly be looking at a play-in of Texas, San Diego State, Missouri, and maybe even NC State if they get in, or SMU. So how do you feel about those, kind of fringe teams, or the teams that are right on the edge, possibly being in the play-in or out?
I don't know if you wanted to table it because they're actually starting the selection.
Okay, yeah. We'll
and then I'll get back to you. Of course, it'll be after the fact, but we'll see how much we got right. They're revealing the East region right now.
All right. Jeremy, thanks for popping in here. We appreciate you. Balky, always good to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. All those interactions you guys give us help us a tremendous amount. And I got it streaming now. I got rid of my cable, but I got all the necessary streaming stuff. You might be a little bit ahead of me.
Yeah. So do you want me to give stuff away, or do you want me to yell out certain teams if they get in before you, and then you can react?
Well, here, what's here? I see the number one overall seed is Duke, so no real surprise here as they announced the East region. Duke being Adam's lifelong favorite team. I'm kidding. Okay. So this is weird. Wouldn't didn't the number one overall seed used to get like the play-in game winner on one of those sides? I'm just kind of curious. But playing Siena,
they used to when it was.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe GMAC can do the impossible here and lead Siena over Duke. Wouldn't that be something? All right.
Oh, yeah.
What seed are you looking at right now? Is it 5-12?
They just did Cal Baptist, the 13 seed 13? Against Kansas.
Okay.
So I'm probably a little ahead.
Yeah, slightly ahead. So I got this first half here. Ohio State versus TCU. That's a pretty good grouping there. TCU, a DFS team that we like to stack a lot as opposed to the rest of the industry. Not as high on Ohio State, but that'll give us a chance to roster Bruce Thornton, who I am somewhat interested in here. The 5-12 game, St. John's as the 5 seed. That's interesting. Thought they might get a little higher. They have to play Northern Iowa. I really wanted Northern Iowa to get Purdue, but I guess Purdue winning the Big Ten tournament, that was all but gone there. I like the way that UNI might have matched up with them. This is kind of a weird spot for St. John's. If UNI gets hot like they did in the MVC tourney, it could spell trouble for St. John's, honestly, with their inconsistent shooting. Kansas has the 4 seed and a quality 13 seed. Man, I got to really control myself from picking too many early upsets. I've been doing a lot of content for FTN about wisely picking brackets, trends, and things like that. That Cal Baptist Kansas game is going to be a really hard one for me not to want to pick. We'll get into that here a little bit more later. Second half of the East region coming out here. Louisville is the 6th seed taking on South Florida. So South Florida, 11 seed, doesn't have to go to the play-in game after winning the American. Good on them. South Florida versus Louisville. I guess that's the Kashawn Pryor Bowl. He doesn't really play for Louisville very much, but he used to be a stud at South Florida. Wow, this region has a lot of your favorites, man. Should have just thrown Purdue and Indiana in here, and you'd have all the hits. Michigan State as the 3 seed, taking on 14 seed North Dakota State. We like our North Dakota State squad. They, of course, won the Summit there. They have a couple of decent DFS options. My man Trayson Anderson, Damari Wheeler-Thomas, Noah Federson, some pretty nice plays there. Kind of a weird matchup for them against Michigan State. UCLA.
You're gonna see something in
Yeah, UCLA as a 7 seed, taking up some injury stuff. Taking UCF as the 10 seed. I like that. Tyler Bilodeau and Donovan Dent both severely banged up. UCLA just dealt with a ton of injuries. So we'll see what happens there and what their health is like. That'll be something that we have to monitor a lot. I like UCF's matchup against UCLA quite a bit, honestly. That taking place in Philadelphia as well. 2 seed, 15 seed dropping here in the East region, and then we'll get a little bit of first look section here. UConn as the 2 seed. So UConn being listed as the worst 2 seed, I guess, here in the Duke region, getting to start in Philadelphia. Pretty interesting possible second round matchup against UCLA if they're healthy. Otherwise, we'll see what happens here. UConn, I think they're going to go on an FU run. I'm a little bit worried about that. And they'll be taking on the 15 seed Furman. Well, I like quite a bit, but didn't really want my man Alex Wilkins to have to play UConn there. So interesting region there. What stands out to you as you look at this first? Any of the matchups, any upsets looming, anything, call outs, players, anything at all that kind of stands out to you initially for the East region, where Duke is the number 1 overall seed. No surprise there.
I'm a little bit bothered by, and I was going to say this before, but we kind of ran up against the selection show and it got underway, so we didn't get to talk about it. But I'm a little perplexed as why UConn is a 2 seed and not a 1 seed. I know they lost to St. John's. They lost by 20. They didn't win the Big East tournament. But I think now we know that Florida is going to be the 4th 1 seed. UConn beat Florida head-to-head. UConn has some major wins. A lot of people, maybe that trickled in late after football season, saw UConn just play a Big East schedule that was somewhat weak. The Big East is a bit of a weaker conference. The SEC is pretty loaded. So people saw Florida taking care of business against some big SEC teams while UConn was beating up on Providence, Georgetown, etc. But if you paid attention to college basketball early in the season, UConn beat some really quad 1A teams. Their resume stacks up pretty much neck and neck with Florida, and they have the head-to-head win over them. And then you add the fact that Florida did not reach the SEC final. They were blown out by Vanderbilt yesterday in the semi. So it's not like Florida could say, well, we won the conference tournament. No, they didn't make the conference tournament final. St. John's lost in their conference tournament final, but their resumes are about equal. So you have equal resumes. Neither team won their conference tournament. UConn has a head-to-head win over Florida. So I'm not sure why UConn is not the 4th 1 seed. I know Florida's a better team. Florida would probably be favored on a neutral court. I would pick Florida over UConn, but I'm not sure why UConn is not the 4th number 1 seed. So that bothers me a little bit. Of course, they're also in the bracket with Duke, which is tough. I'm happy that Michigan State got a 3 seed and not a 2. That's probably it. They went to a commercial, so I lost the bracket a little bit. I didn't write it in yet.
Yeah.
Ohio State, TCU, a little bit of a boring 8-9. They'll probably get blown out by Duke. So nothing. And no major bubble teams in this quadrant either yet. We saw South Florida get the 11, UCF get the 10. So no reveal yet on bubble teams.
Yeah, I'm gonna make them sweat a little bit here. Yeah, I wanna touch on what you said about Florida versus UConn. Similar, very similar in the net, right? 5 for Florida, 6 or for the WAB ranking. Florida was 5th, UConn was 6th, and then in the net, Florida ended up being 4th. UConn was right around 10th. So very close there. You mentioned they had the early season win on the neutral. Florida actually lost a neutral game to TCU very early in the season as well, and then a neutral loss to Arizona before taking care of business. This just goes to show us something that we've known for decades at this point. And even though the committee, no matter who's the lead of the committee and who's on it, they deny, but their actions prove otherwise, that Saturday and Sunday just doesn't really matter. It matters when a bubble team, wins the auto bid or a bid steal or whatever, and they have forced to change. But when they're not forced to change, they just won't. Florida bowed out of the SEC tourney early, as you had mentioned. UConn makes the Big East final. I thought, like, if UConn won this against St. John's, they would kind of eel their way in as the 4th number 1, and I thought that was kind of like a foregone conclusion. And if they didn't get it, I thought they'd be the 1st or 2nd, best second seed, certainly not the worst 2 seed on the line. This tells me that even if UConn won the Big East tournament against St. John's, they wouldn't even have got the number 1 seed, their 4th number 1 seed. It's just, I don't see that jump. So they had Florida carved in there as the 4th number 1 seed. And like I said, it just goes to show you that regardless of what happened here this weekend, they weren't going to change it. And this is something we see every single year. And we ask and say, does the conference tournaments matter? If this happened on Saturday, would you have changed it? If this happened on Sunday, would you change it? And the committee chair always says, well, we would have looked at it, but we felt pretty good about where we had this. And then they'll rattle off a few metrics, things out of their ass, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it seems Florida was locked in as the 4th number 1 seed, probably as early as, middle of last week. And they barring like something catastrophic, they were just never going to get moved out of there. That's what it looks like to me. So I guess that stands up well for Auburn, who has the best win in college basketball history over Florida, on their floor, by the way.
But we'll see if they get into this quadrant, because they're doing this one. This one's got to have a bubble team somewhere. There's got to be some sort of information we learn here from this quadrant that starts with Arizona as the 1.
For sure. But yeah, certainly the big takeaway there for me is UConn being quote unquote the worst 2 seed. That's wild to me. I don't know how. I hope they ask them about that, and I hope they explain that. But clearly, it didn't matter what the game, result was, even if they won. And I thought it was a golden opportunity. I thought it was a golden opportunity for Florida when they lost. For UConn to kind of step in there and possibly snake a 1 seed away, or even Houston if they could have beat Arizona. But guess not. All right,
they're revealing like the 5-12 here.
Arizona. So, okay. I thought, so Queens is going to be a play-in team. Okay. So we're going to get Queens as a play-in. I thought that Queens was actually the best 16 seed according to Bracket Matrix. They thought so as well. The Long Island Sharks, they'll be playing Arizona here. So we're going to get some Queens action on Tuesday or Wednesday in the play-in game. And I love me some Queens, as you know.
Oh, man, I don't like this bracket so far, the way things are shaping up with matchups, at least personally.
What streaming service do you use, by the way?
I still have cable, actually.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's why you're okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm
I had to
probably way
get
ahead.
I had to cut the cord on that. I got to use this the streaming stuff. Okay, so the Badgers, who you're very like, we have the 8-9 game there going Villanova, Utah State. Typical 8-9 game that just looks awful on paper, DFS and fantasy purposes. Like no part of that, please. Wisconsin has the 5 seed. This is another one, man. High Point is a 12 seed. Like I gotta really like pump the brakes because I want to pick Cal Baptist over Kansas, and I'm gonna talk extensively tomorrow when I've had a chance to really go over the bracket and do our show tomorrow. And High Point over Wisconsin, like that'll probably be a trendy pick there. High Point, they paid for this roster. They have the most NIL in the Big South. But Wisconsin, man, the way that the guards are playing, Boyd and Blackwell, I don't know. I don't know if High Point can beat them, and I'm a little bit worried about that. And I feel like that could be a trendy upset pick, but I'm not so sure that's going to be the one. Arkansas is the 4 seed taking on the 13 Hawaii. See, I would have almost rather Cal Baptist play Arkansas. I don't think Cal Baptist would beat Arkansas, but hell, that game would be like a 200 total. But that looks like an interesting matchup. BYU is the 6 seed playing in Portland. That's a pretty big deal for them. What's up, buddy? BYU, of course, is extremely banged up as well. AJ DeBansta taking on the 11 seed here. There should be a play-in game, right? Okay, so Texas and NC State. So 2 of the teams I thought would be in the play-in game we know Texas was right on the cusp. Texas was like plus 135 yesterday to make the tournament, which was a really like quite a bad number. They were minus 300 today on DK. It's kicking myself for not betting that yesterday, but they do get in, which we expected. NC State, would you be sure? Well, we'll talk about it at the end here. I got to remember this question. Gonzaga as the 3 seed. Okay. Possible matchup between old WCC foes. Gonzaga as a 3 seed getting to play in Portland. Pretty respectful treatment of the Gonzaga Bulldogs there. Taking on Kennesaw State as a 14. I like Kennesaw State. As a 6 seed, the conference winners there in the CUSA. Miami versus Missouri. That's going to be a good game. That's going to be one. I can't wait to see what they line that as. Miami got absolutely just destroyed by Virginia. Very disappointing for me. Missouri also bowed out of the tournament. They were a little bit closer. I think in a different universe, Miami and Missouri could have been 3 or 4 seeds. Purdue is the 2 seed. Okay, so Purdue sneaks all the way up to the 2 seed. Now, they were fringe 3-4 prior to the Big Ten tournament. They go on this run. They secure themselves a 2 seed in the Arizona region, and they're taking on Queens is not a 16. Okay, wow. So Queens gets a 15 seed. Look at the respect they're showing our boys from Queens there. Coached by Grant Leonard. A great season by Queens. Shit, man. This is one of those games where, I mean, Purdue played out of their mind today. Much respect to them against Michigan. Queens has shooters. We saw that. Carson Schwager can shoot the 3. Yo Berman sometimes can shoot the 3. Nasir Mann, we saw that in the ASUN final. They could get hot. I'm interested in that matchup quite a bit. But I wanted to ask you, would it surprise you? It hasn't. I don't think it happened last year, but in a couple of recent years, we've seen an 11 seed from the play-in make these deep runs to the Elite 8, Final 4. UCLA back in 2021. Would you be surprised if one of these 11 seeds, Texas or NC State, who have both been pretty porous throughout the year, they've been just good enough, especially early. Dallin Swain for Texas can hard carry. They've got the guard play. Pope. Tremont Mack, as inconsistent as they can be. Would it surprise you if they shot 80% in one game? Or NC State with my guy Quadir Copeland. They've got shooting in Matt Abel. Trey Holloman can make shots. How surprised would you be if one of those 2 teams upsets BYU, upsets Gonzaga, and makes this quote unquote sun run into the Elite 8 where they face or Sweet 16 where they face a Purdue or even an Arizona? Would that surprise you at all?
In this bracket, in this quadrant, I should say, yes, it would surprise me. I don't like Texas or NC State, and I actually like this quadrant a lot. I think there's some big-time teams, big-time problems in this quadrant. You have Gonzaga as a team you do not want to face in the tournament. They're almost a lock to a Sweet 16 every year. Yeah. BYU's not going to be a cupcake. You're going to have to deal with AJ DeBanza the first round. He's going to score 40, 50 points if he has to try to win that game. They have Rob Wright too. It's just a very difficult matchup right off the bat. And then even if you get past them, you're probably going to face Gonzaga. Even if you advance even further than that, you have teams like Wisconsin and Arkansas who just do not want to face in this tournament. That's why I'm so bothered by the fact that Wisconsin and Arkansas could face each other so early. Those are two teams I'd want to take pretty deep into the field. And I'm going to have to pick one of the two right now because they're going to run into each other. So that's a little upsetting to me because Arkansas, Wisconsin was probably going to be the best second round. I think it would be second round game that we're going to see, unless it's Sweet 16. I don't have the bracket in front of me again, but if those teams square up, that's a heck of a game. I think either of them could give Arizona problems. But yes, I would be surprised if an 11 seed in this quadrant, at least. We'll see who the other 11 seed play-in game is. But this Texas, NC State, no.
Well, this is just the perfect setup because that UCLA team, the year they made that deep run, coming into it, there was a lot of people, myself included, who was like, I don't know if they should have made it. They got hot, they beat some good teams, and they got there. And everyone's going to be so down on these two teams, or maybe rightfully so. But the guard play on both, they can get hot for 2 or 3 games. I'm kind of down on BYU a little bit just because they're so banged up. And Debasta has just been, his back is going out from hard carrying the team. If Rob Wright can be completely healthy, Keba Kaida can give them something, then they should theoretically take care of business. That Lubin versus Kaida matchup would be very interesting. Got some comments coming in here. Balky says apparently he told you that Wisconsin was going to be against Arkansas in the 4-5. His little soothsayer saw that there. My man Corey, longtime friend of the show, big Arkansas fan, says, "Let's go, woo pig." I have my Arkansas hat somewhere. I'll have to put it on before the show ends for you, Corey. I got it floating around here somewhere. Balky says, Purdue, congrats on getting the 2 seed, gets Queens in Missouri. in Missouri. And then our friend Mighty Hams for the Discord. Nightmare matchup for Hawaii. He's right. He's so right. A cuff might be the worst matchup in the country for a team that only plays drop. There's also the matter of Hawaii, like defense in general being quite questionable for them. They do have a top 50 defensive efficiency throughout. And they played competitive games early in the season against Arizona State, Oregon, UC San Diego, teams like that. They shot pretty damn good in the second half to knock off Irvine. They probably shouldn't have won that game. But against really streaky offenses like CS Northridge, Cal Poly, teams like that when they get hot, they're as good as anyone in that conference. They just got their doors blown off. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned here. Good shooting like Malik Thomas. Malik Thomas will probably absolutely detonate against Hawaii. So that's one player to look for. My man Malik Ewan should have a nice little bounce back here if he plays the minutes. But yeah, that's a good call out. The Hawaii defense there, absolutely brutal. I would have preferred to see Baptist versus Arkansas, not because I think they would have won, but I just would have liked that guard matchup. It would have been like that Oral Roberts Arkansas game from a few years ago. That was an instant classic. I think that they could have played them pretty tough. So, all good call outs there. These upsets are going to be trendy as they always are, and I've been the victim of them. A couple years ago, I picked High Point and McNeese State to advance. They both lost in the following year. McNeese won a game. I don't know that High Point. I mean, I guess we'll see if Nolan Winter, what his status is and how healthy he can be. High Point has some guys. They've won like 14 games in a row. Obviously, their conference is quite weak. They were pretty competitive on the road against UAB, competitive at home against Southern Illinois, took Appalachian State to overtime on a neutral. Rob Martin, Terry Anderson, they have some good players. But this Wisconsin team, if your guards, and I say yours because I know you're a fan of them, if Blackwell and Boyd are playing like what they played in the Big Ten tournament, this is going to be a pretty tough one. So we'll see what the lines are. I'll be really curious to see what the Vegas line is for that one initially. All right, we got the Midwest region dropping here. I'm a little behind because of the stream here. Michigan as the number 1 seed in the Midwest, taking on the play-in game. So this is our first play-in game. So get familiar with these teams. UMBC taking on Howard. I had a pretty strong suspicion Howard would be in the play-in game. Dominant team out of the MEAC. 23-10. They just ran the table. I think they won something like 8 or 9 in a row. UMBC, the darlings from a few years ago that put away Virginia. They also have an elite social media team that was poking fun at Auburn the other day. So shout out to Maryland, Baltimore County, because they are extremely funny on socials. we'll get into depth in that playing game matchup here a little bit. 8-9 in that one is Georgia versus St. Louis. See, there's another game. These 8-9s, I don't know if it's like a requirement for 8-9 games to just be ugly. St. Louis kind of ended the season on a skid, and Georgia the same. Like, from a DFS perspective, can you recall two teams that frustrated you more? I'm sure you can, but with a deep roster, and now they have to play each other. Imagine trying to pick for that game. Thankfully, we'll have big slates early, so we won't have to. But I just know somebody on Georgia or St. Louis is going to break the slate, and I don't even want to deal with that matchup. 5-12 matchup here in the Midwest. Texas Tech getting the 5. Unfortunately, no JT Toppin. Christian Anderson, who is going to be clear for the tournament, but is banged up from that ludicrous glass floor that the Big 12 tried to roll out. They'll be taking on a very tough Akron team. Akron, the champions of the MAC, getting a 12. Two bid MAC league, right? So they're definitely live to beat Texas Tech. As much as I like Texas Tech, they are live. CAA champions, Hofstra as the 13 seed. I like Hofstra. I like, in general, the Coastal Athletic Association taking on Alabama, the 4 seed. That's going to be a really interesting matchup. Now, I also wish Cal Baptist could have gotten that one because I think they would have been live to beat Bama. Not so sure that Hofstra necessarily has the offense to do it, but we'll see. 6 seed there. That's a pretty strong 6 seed. Tennessee Vols taking on the play-in game.
I tried not to react.
So here's the thing. Full of shit. So that I kind of had an idea that the whole WAB metric was what we're going to pay attention to, and blah, 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 blah. By that, I looked it up. I read some stuff. They should be a 10 seed. Miami, Ohio should be a 10 seed, not an 11 seed. Clearly, the only thing that matters is resume and net ranking still to this day. Miami, Ohio gets into the play-in game where they will take on SMU. That probably spells disaster for SDSU, the San Diego State Aztecs, but there should still be 2 spots left, if I'm not mistaken. Miami, Ohio should have been safely in. I guess they weren't. 2 bid MAC, and they put them in the same region. Bravo. Well done. Well done by the committee. Virginia as the 3 seed, serving up Wright State, the champions of the Horizon, as the 14. Wright State being served to the slaughter. Don't even think about this upset there. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. Our guys, Santa Clara, who we like. We love Santa Clara. Safely in the tournament, as they should have been. If they would have been an 11, that would have been truly ridiculous. The only team that can run a future NBA player like Alan Graves out there off the bench, taking on Kentucky. An amazing 7-10 matchup. Alan Graves taking on that Kentucky front court. That'll be a fun one. Lots of fantasy goodness there. Otega Awe. Santa Clara has a pretty good defense as well. 2 seed in that one, Iowa State. The Cyclones. This is a pretty tough region for Michigan. You know, it's not an easy path to them after all. Can you hear me better now or no? Can you hear me better now or no, Adam? I think you are. Can you hear me at all or no? I think you might be frozen. We're having some technical difficulties here. If anyone is in the chat there, can just tell me if it's me or Adam, and then I can box my way out of here. I don't think Adam can hear me. So I'll just come out. I'll just leave and then come back. Show's clear on my screen, and he's frozen. But maybe that's not the case. Okay, so it was Adam. All right, yeah, it's all good. I thought so. Sorry about that, guys. We had some technical difficulties. That North Carolina internet. Here, Adam's back now. What's up, buddy?
Sorry, I don't know if you asked me a question. I was just
Oh no,
staring at
you're
the
good. You're
screen, but
good. I wasn't sure because
I
it
think
showed
it was
clear on my side and you were frozen. So I was like, if it is me, I just left and came back. But we're all good now.
okay.
Yeah. So takeaways from this region right away. I think the 7-10 matchup, that's going to be a very popular, game that people talk about. Probably a popular pick. Not 7-10 games, not much of an upset. Stylistically, though, and from a DFS perspective, that one looks very, very good. But what are your thoughts on the Midwest region? It kind of seems like the slight fall by Michigan there put them in a bracket where there's a few teams, I think could maybe give them a game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is another bracket that there's a lot of teams that I think could potentially make some runs. I don't know if you mentioned this while I was having some technical difficulties, but Miami, Ohio, I was probably in the minority a little bit with them. I think they should have been punished with the play-in game. I think they should have got into the tournament, and they did. But for having their net was bad. They didn't play anybody. They did have it was a bad loss too in the quarterfinal. Their conference tournament. It's not like they went all the way to the final and lost to Akron. That would have been a little different. But they did go undefeated in the regular season. They can score 100 points in their sleep. They're a team that deserved to be in. But I think the committee sort of compromised here and said, "We'll put you in, but you're going to go into Dayton." And going back to your other question, now I can see an 11 seed making a run. Miami, Ohio is a team that's going to come into the tournament with that chip on their shoulder type of thing. People saying, oh, they didn't play anywhere, they shouldn't be in. Those teams always tend to make a run. And I think because they can score the ball so well, I think they can get. Michigan, I also think. Oh, wait, I think we're back. Okay. Michigan, I do think Michigan will come in with a little extra motivation too, coming off the loss against Purdue. They haven't lost many games this year. So sometimes I almost feel like losing a game in your conference tournament final kind of fires you up a little bit entering the NCAA tournament. So I don't really see as many landmines here. I'm actually more worried about Arizona in their quadrant than I would be about Michigan, although there are some teams that could push them for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. Looking at it here, I think there's some teams that are really quite tough that I might have undervalued. Virginia being one of them as a 3 seed. I think they're way better than I expected. I've watched quite a few of their games this year, but over the last 2 weeks, I've totally changed my thought process from they couldn't go to the Elite Eight to now I feel like, man, this team is live. Iowa State, we know they're always tough. That Kentucky Santa Clara game is going to be fun. Alabama, you can never count them out. If they're hot and hitting their threes, they'll bury you quickly. If they're not, they can fall behind rather quickly. Tennessee, I mean, as a 6 seed, they might be one of the best 6 seeds we've had in years, honestly. I think they're, if SMU gets by Miami, I think Tennessee kind of handles SMU. But yeah, Miami, you're right. Maybe they could go on a run here. We didn't learn it, but we kind of relearned it or solidified it. The committee doesn't care about Saturday, Sunday games, as we saw with the 1 seed not changing from Florida to, well, we presume Florida to UConn, and the net ranking still matters a whole hell of a lot. So Miami, by the newer metric, should have gotten a 10, and they got a play-in. And you said that might have been punishment, and maybe so, but I want them to answer for that, but it just kind of, like I said, re-solidifies what we already knew about games on the weekends not mattering and net still ruling the world, at least for another tournament. All right, so at the South region, Florida does get it. Kind of figured that, we had talked about that. They're happy to be in the South. They get to start in Tampa. Some pretty big edge there for them. This should be another 16 seed playing game. Okay. Hey, I did call this one. I did call this playing game, Prairie View A&M versus Lehigh. Absolutely love both of these teams. Both of these teams have made me some good money on underdog on props. Lehigh, there's a name you need to know. Buzzer beater extraordinaire, Nazir Whitlock, absolute stud at this level. And then for Prairie View A&M, they have a couple of guys. They're the 8 seed, and when you're talking about a team coming out of the SWAC, 8 seed, 1 seed through 8 seeds, there's not a huge difference there. They have won 7 games in a row, led by Dante Horn there, Corey Wells, and Lance Williams. they're actually a pretty exciting team. As far as play-in games go and getting excited for 16 seeds, there's not a ton of sickos out there like me, but that's a game that I'm really looking forward to. I'm glad they're going to be playing each other. Clemson has the 8-9 game against Iowa. That's an interesting one. Okay, two teams I don't typically like on the slate. And the 5 seed Vanderbilt, thought they might climb to a 4, but I guess they might have had to win the SEC tourney to make that happen. Taking on the 12 seed McNeese in Oklahoma. That's going to be another interesting one because I have this tendency, and I think the rest of the world will too, to pick, multiple 12s over a 5. We see it all the time, but I just don't know if McNeese stylistically is going to match up well with Vanderbilt here. We'll get into that here in a second. Nebraska has the 4 seed taking on the 13 seed Troy. As good as Nebraska has been this year, they coming off the Crown Championship last year, I could see Troy beating them. So hold that thought. North Carolina is a 6 seed here. Go Tar Heels in Greenville, South Carolina. Okay. Not a bad spot for them. The South region is kind of shaking out to be pretty tough. Some teams that I think kind of limped into the end of the season, but could definitely do some damage here. 11 seed VCU, the champions of the A10. Once this ends, we'll start with this matchup because we'll get your expert take here on North Carolina versus VCU. VCU, nice little winning streak. They've lost only once since January 19th, so they are on fire and they just grind games out continually. So they have the pieces, the talent, the chops, whatever you want to say, to compete with North Carolina. We'll see what that spread is. 3 seed here, Illinois. Illinois, another team that kind of limped in. They'll be taking on the 14 seed Penn. The Quakers winning the Ivy today against Yale. An amazing game. Buzzer beater to send it to overtime by TJ Power, 44 points, 14 rebounds. Perhaps even more impressive about Penn, the fact that they didn't have their senior star, Ethan Roberts, who suffered a concussion earlier this year. He's having symptoms of that coming back, had to sit out for the Ivy League. Not sure they'll have him for this game, but great story for Penn there, taking on Illinois. That should be pretty fun. Penn plays, of course, at a fast pace with Fran McCaffrey at the wheel. Pretty intriguing 7-10 game. So Texas A&M was in safely as the 10 seed, taking on the 7 seed St. Mary's. There's some really nice matchups in this side of the bracket that we like. Houston as the 2 seed. So no Auburn, no Oklahoma. Houston getting Idaho. Idaho making it to the tournament for the first time in like a million years. Doesn't matter that they're taking on Houston, just happy to be there. Don't see a 15 over a 2 happening there. Houston, another one of those teams, kind of limped into the end of the season. They have some quality wins, but they looked beatable. They looked mortal. There's a spot where, they might come into the tournament pissed off and ready to kind of prove the naysayers wrong. And I feel like the bottom of the bracket there, a tough second round matchup game potentially looming there with St. Mary's. But if they get past them there, it seems like they have a pretty good shot to the Final Four where they would, maybe have to meet Florida beforehand. I kind of like how it sets up for Houston. What are your thoughts on the South region here? South region here at first glance.
I think Florida has the easiest road to the region final. I think not only should they have not been a 1 seed, which we argued earlier, but I also think they have the easiest walk to the region final. The bottom of the bracket is a little difficult. I don't see Nebraska, Vanderbilt, any of those teams really giving Clemson, Iowa. None of those teams are going to give Florida any issues. Florida's going to walk right to the region final where it's going to be either Houston or Illinois. I don't see any other team other than Houston or Illinois that could come out of that spot. I think they'll play each other. Whoever wins that's going to play Florida. But Florida has the easiest cakewalk. I mean, I could be wrong. I'd have to double check the bracket again. But Arizona has a little bit of a tough, 4-5 matchup potentially. There's some better teams in the region we have just covered before this one. Florida, I just don't see any resistance there. I will be interested in a Houston, Illinois potential regional semifinal. Illinois is a team I kind of came into this tournament wanting to pick pretty far, but Houston's another team that I believe in. So Houston, Illinois, I think I'd really be looking forward to that one. I don't know if I see any chaos in this bracket. North Carolina, it would have been better if Caleb Wilson was healthy. VCU could give them some issues. I don't know if VCU will pull that upset, but I don't see North Carolina going very far beyond that. So I think Illinois will walk to the region semifinal. I don't think St. Mary's can handle Houston. So it's pretty much just Florida against winner of Houston, Illinois. I don't see much chaos here. I don't even know if I'll pick any upsets. This seems like the most standard quadrant of the four. And we do now know I'm willing to bet the last team into the field is probably SMU, which I know technical difficulties, but I'm not sure why they're in the field. So I'm assuming they're the last team in, and some of the teams you brought up are out.
Yeah, so I'll jump into that real quick. I just paused it on the last four in, first four out. I mean, Vanderbilt looms as a potential Sweet 16 matchup. They just knocked Florida out on the neutral court. Obviously, that, probably lends more credence to Florida beating them. They're not going to lose it, a second time in a matter of 2 weeks to them. But I think that, that matchup looming could be a bit of a tricky one for them. I think the 8-9 game's relatively safe for them, as you mentioned. I do think Vanderbilt gets past McNeese. I think Troy has a chance at Nebraska. But, yeah, I think, Florida, as long as they don't have that second hiccup against Vanderbilt, probably to the Elite Eight. Illinois versus North Carolina is an intriguing potential matchup. St. Mary's versus Houston is just freaking war. It wouldn't surprise me either way. And whoever comes out of that might be so banged up and tired that maybe it gives an opportunity for an Illinois to get through there. But it's a little tough on the bottom, I think. I think it's a little tougher than maybe I have a stronger opinion of this one than you do. That North Carolina VCU game should be fun. All right, so last four in, North Carolina State, Texas, SMU, and Miami of Ohio. And the way they have them in order, I don't know if the committee's saying that Miami, Ohio is truly the last team in. It certainly looks like it by the way they are. Net of 64th. NC State and Texas appeared to be somewhat safely in, and then SMU right on the cusp as well. So SMU and Miami, Ohio just got in. First four out, Oklahoma, Auburn, San Diego State, Indiana. So had there been, some shenanigans or Miami got left out, it looks like Oklahoma would have been the next team in, not Auburn. Certainly not Indiana, and apparently not San Diego State either. So San Diego State looks like they had to win. They had to obviously get the auto bid to get in. They never had a chance, according to what the committee is saying here. Does that surprise you at all? And you think they should have been in over SMU, it sounds like?
Well, now that you mentioned it, I'd say I should have taken a screenshot of the first four out as well. I don't really know if this is a controversial year. I think the bubble was so bad that somebody bad was going to get in and other bad teams are going to be left out. So it's not like how did that team not get in? I mean, if Oklahoma had gotten in over SMU, my initial reaction would have been, how did Oklahoma get in? But then it'd say, well, in favor of who? SMU? I don't think SMU is really that deserving either. So I don't know if this is as controversial a year. I don't think SMU deserved to be in there 4-9 in quad 1, 5-4 in quad 2. Didn't really have a signature win here, really. They did beat North Carolina. That was probably their best win, which is, okay. But if that's your best win and you have 9 quad 1 losses, I'm wondering if it had something to do with they respected the ACC, because NC State also got in with SMU as kind of two bubble teams that made the field. I don't know if they like the metrics out of that conference over some of the others. They let Texas in, but not Auburn, so I'm not sure. Maybe it has nothing to do with the conferences. I'm not really all that surprised. SMU stands out to me as why are they in, but I don't necessarily think I'd put Oklahoma, Indiana, San Diego State. I mean, I don't think there's one team there that you could point to that said they were snubbed. I don't think that's the case.
No, and you can go back to, you remember 2024. That was the year Indiana State, the Sycamores had a really good team, Avila and all them, and they fizzled out in the NIT. But they dropped out of the MVC tournament. But they were right on the cusp. They were like first or second team out. That was a snub. And then that same year, Oklahoma, then in 2024, they had arguably much better net rankings, better resume metrics. They were left out in 2024 then as well. And that was a bigger snub. I think Oklahoma, it's kind of known that they wouldn't get in here. But if you go back to that team 2024, that was a bigger snub to me. That was the year where they were like 20-12. They dropped out of the tournament early against TCU. Otega Awe was on that team. JV McCollum, like that was a pretty big snub year for them. And then the Ravi Avila Indiana State team. And then last year's biggest snub was Irvine, but they went on to win the NIT. So I don't think there was as big a controversy here. Saying that here, this is a pretty good comment here. Miami, Ohio, last team in according to the graphic. guess the WAB metric doesn't count unless your program has money. Yeah, I knew that was going to be BS. I mean, the way they were selling that we're going to really be high on this metric and it's going to matter. A lot smarter people than me went through it, but I figured that they should have been a 10 seed, honestly. And then bracket matrix, we use that a lot. Bracketologists put their picks there. He says, looks like bracket matrix had the whole field right. Every team or almost every team within 1 seed. The metrics are the metrics, and people have got that shit figured down to a science with picking out brackets. It's a lot easier to do so now, and especially if you can get in the head of the committee, which isn't so difficult to do these days. I think last year also was kind of a semi-stub on Indiana. Remember, that much better team last year than they were this year, ironically enough. So let me pull up the actual bracket now that we have that completed. And we'll get your, so we'll get some initial thoughts here. Maybe like a matchup that stands out to you in the first round that's very intriguing for whatever reason. It can be for DFS or upset purposes. I'll give you a minute to kind of look that over. I'm kind of excited about the play-ins more than I am normally, so I'll start with that. But that Kentucky-Santa Clara game, man, really stands out as like one of the better matchups from if you just like college hoop standpoint, but not only DFS and betting, possibly a higher total, some future NBA talent on both sides, really 3-bid WCC league. Let's go. But that's probably one of my favorite, where I think it could go either way and it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm really intrigued to see Graves go up against the front court there of Kentucky. He's a little bit of a mobile, 6'9", 6'10" guy. Probably gives them a lot of bit of trouble, and it'll be interesting to see their defense on Otega Awe. So that matchup stands out to me as one of the ones that could be more competitive. As for the 5-12 games, we know that 5-12 upsets happen pretty frequently, a lot of times 2 times a year. Wisconsin, High Point, which I'm a little bit worried there. St. John's, Northern Iowa. Felt like Northern Iowa got jacked. Vanderbilt, McNeese, and then Texas Tech, Akron. I think the easy way will be to say, hey, Texas Tech is banged up. Akron's going to get them, and that's very possible. I don't know about High Point against a red-hot backcourt of Wisconsin. I guess that takes me into the realm of, can Northern Iowa give St. John's trouble? I think they can because of their shooting. And then McNeese versus Vanderbilt. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this is a year where all 5s advance. So could be a little crazy with that take, but I think matchup wise, they kind of screwed over some of the 12 seeds, which is probably not by accident. So what's 1 or 2 of the games, matchups, players, anything stand out to you now that you've had a chance to kind of fully look at the bracket?
You kind of brought it up a little bit. I do think maybe it's a chalky type of pick or a popular one, but I really like Akron, and getting to play a banged up Texas Tech team, at least there's some intrigue there. Although I do like how Texas Tech has responded since they lost JT Top, and they've been pretty competitive. They've even won some games that they're probably underdogs in. So it's possible that won't happen. I do kind of agree with you. I don't necessarily know if there's a 5 seed in danger. Vanderbilt's the team I probably pick against the most, but McNeese is the 12 seed that I have the least confidence in. Let's see what else we got here. I'm just looking at the bracket. I know I said it before, but that Wisconsin-Arkansas game, that's brutal. I also, you mentioned
brutal, but it's a banger. Like that has the potential to be the best like 4 or 5 matchup in many years. Like it's an absolute banger.
You also have Gonzaga BYU. If that materializes, that's an awesome, former West Coast Conference matchup. There'll probably be 1 million points scored in that one. Let's see. I do think the toughest brackets are the West and the South. Those are the ones where I think Arizona, I like Arizona a lot, but man, is that a tough one. And then I do think Florida has a really easy road to the regional final, but I don't want to play Houston. I don't want to play Illinois. So I think that could be very difficult, but those are the 2 quadrants that stand out the most to me. See if we got anything else here. I do think I'll touch on Miami, Ohio again. I think they can make a run. I think they're going to win in Dayton. I think they might even win another game. But I might be in minority here. I do believe that them being the last team into the field, I'm okay with that because it's a balancing act. They were undefeated. They did not lose a game in the regular season. They went 31-0, but they didn't have the resume that really stands up as an at-large team. So when they bowed out of the conference tournament right away, the deal was essentially, we're going to credit you for going undefeated, but we're going to put you in Dayton, and you're going to be the last team in. Now, I agree with what you're saying. If the committee's going to talk about metrics and they're going to weigh metrics and they're going to use metrics, then you should use them and you should be consistent in how you use them. So I do have a problem with this wishy-washiness of, well, we'll use this one, not this one. Maybe we'll use this one for this team, but not this team. But when it comes down to just, if you just look at the fact that Miami, Ohio is the last team in the field, I can accept that as a fan. Say that's your punishment for getting in, but you were undefeated, so you deserve to be in. And now we get to see them in Dayton, which I think is a bigger storyline. More people will watch the first four because of that, because they want to see if Miami, Ohio's got the chops or not. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. I think Miami, Ohio making a run or bowing out early is probably the thing that I'm most looking forward to in the first round. And then the Wisconsin-Arkansas game, which I'm upset about. Like, why'd they have to do that? Can they put Arkansas anywhere else or Wisconsin anywhere else? Can they just do that? Of course not.
Yeah. That the winner of that game, that potential matchup, man, they're going to be primed for a potential run. Ham says, committee chair, I'll go back and watch this later on my own time. Committee chair says VCU would have been out if they lost today. That's a somewhat shocking. I knew they were on the cusp. I thought they were like a play-in team if they hadn't won, but apparently that was not the case. And then also said Miami wasn't technically the last team in, but they had to make them the 44th seed when seeding. I don't know what reason. No idea how you square those. So apparently I think SMU might have been the last team in the way that it looks to me, but maybe there was some regionality there or something. I'm not sure what the deal is, but so sounds like SMU might have been the last one, or Texas, but maybe they're punishing them like you said. So the play-in game schedule is now known. Prairie View Lehigh on Wednesday. UMBC Howard on Tuesday. Looks like Texas NC State on Tuesday as well. So some good games. We'll have lots of content surrounding this, of course. Overall, not a bad bracket. The bubble was so weak/soft. This is one of the first years in recent memory where I haven't come away being like, man, that team really got jacked. Like 2 years ago, I really, in my heart of heart, believe that Indiana State should have gotten in. I knew they were going to get screwed as a mid-major, and they fizzled out in the NIT. Oklahoma had a good case that year. Last year, Irvine, same thing. But this year, I really don't feel like it. If Oklahoma could have beaten Arkansas and gotten to the final, maybe that catapults them above SMU. In fact, that's a question I would like to ask the committee chair. But nothing's too egregious. As far as the play-ins, the reason I asked about Texas, NC State, SMU, Miami, play-in game 11s have made some runs since they've switched this format, especially recently. Final four appearances for play-in 11 winners. 2024, of course, that was NC State. That was a great team. 2021 being UCLA. And then 2018 and 2011, it also happened. I can't remember off the top of my head. 2018 was Loyola Chicago. That's right. Remember that, the Sister Jean run. And then, of course, way back in the day before playing games, but the 11 seed George Mason made that crazy run back in 2006. So there's precedent, especially over the last, few years. And 5 of the last 13 tournaments, the play-in game winner has reached the second weekend. So possibility for one of those 4 teams to make it. I don't get that feeling about SMU because I don't feel their defense is very good without BJ Edwards. If BJ Edwards plays, that's different. He's a lockdown perimeter defender. Our guy, Jaden Toombs, is growing up quickly, so they've got a real weapon there. So I shouldn't poo-poo on them too much. Miami, Ohio, I'm a little bit concerned about their defense against some stronger athletes. I go back to that Texas NC State game. I know you're saying no. Dallin Swain is capable of carrying a team for 3 or 4 games. And NC State with Will Wade, like they really limp through the end of the season, but that team can get hot. And if Matt Abel, Trey Holloman can hit shots, Quadir Copeland can avoid, dribbling off his foot and having a horrible assist to turnover ratio, there's some good things that can happen. And your guy, well, he was your guy at one point, maybe, Van Allen Lubin, as bad as NC State looked at times the last month of the season, he actually looked great. I think he's going to be a real problematic guard for Texas big Mattis Fadiakakis because he's been playing really well, can block shots and make some things happen there. And they have the shooting, which I just released an article on FTN about player archetypes. I'll repost that. But NC State has 2 or 3 of those archetypes for a potential run here, and history has been on the side of that play-in game winner 11. So, man, a lot to internalize here. VCU made the Final Four from the play-in. Yeah, what year was that? I forgot.
2011.
That was 11. Was that 2011? That must have been the 2011 team. I just remember it was 2011.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, yeah.
I think so. Pretty sure.
Let me look here real quick. It was them, yeah. Who was on that team? Joey Rodriguez.
Oh, it was
Jamie Skeen.
They
lost to Butler. That's when they lost to Butler. Remember, they ended up making that run and played. It was the craziest Final Four. That was God, was that Cardiac Kemba year or was that Shabazz? I can't even remember now. But yeah, that was a crazy.
I think it was Kemba. I think UConn with Shabazz might have been 14 or something around there. 2014.
Yeah. I think you're right. Connecticut. That was one of the crazy. I got to go back and watch some of that. That was one of the craziest tournaments in recent memory. God, who was that? Cardiac Kemba, Jeremy Lamb. Yeah, that was what a fun tournament that was. All right, so fun. We'll plan ahead. I'm going to be going live tomorrow at some point to kind of go over some of the initial matchups. Going to have the play-in /NIT stuff. NIT is going to be releasing, I think, on their Twitter on a live show. So we'll see who they bring in. CBI is not doing a tournament this year. CIT has been abolished. There's just no money for those teams anymore. You have to pay to play in those tournaments, and a lot of these smaller schools have to get right on the transfer portal and rebuilding their roster, just the world we live in now. And there is still the Crown Tournament, which takes place between April 1st and April 8th. So right in between that Final Four weekend there. They've cut that down from 16 to 8 teams, which is probably better for the product, but not better for us and sickos like myself that prefer more games, more slates all the time. So we'll have content around the play-in NIT slates. We'll be doing a Tuesday night bracket show, just kind of going through and making my selections. Would love to have you and I'm reaching out to Mike Kutry and a couple other people as well, and just going into the matchups in depth and kind of just picking a bracket live. Probably we'll do some form of a bracket contest on FTN and other places, and then on Fantrax, my annual player draft league will be taking place. It's a 12-person league. We've already got 5 or 6 guys in. In years past, we had so much interest that we had 2 or 3 leagues. So depending on that interest, we'll plan ahead. Draft on Tuesday night, typically might be Wednesday night. $25 entry, DraftKings scoring, and basically just the name of the game there is to try to stack up teams you think will go deep in the tournament and acquire those points. Adam dominated last year, and a lot of fun overall. Small prize pool, but just kind of one of those things to keep you engaged on the side there. And lots of fun stuff here, bracket contests galore and content more than we can be. So hopefully you have some time to jump on and grind with us all week. 8-game slates, 16-game slates, middle of the day slates, night slate. It's a lot of fun, a lot of stuff happening. Really, truly the best time of year. I know you're a big baseball guy and you might argue, World Series, pennant race, whatever. But this is a great time of year, and you've been tremendous help to me. You've been kicking ass in the community and the Discord, which I do appreciate, and look forward to the rest of this week. And there's a lot to go over here, and I'm going to get off and check out some NIT stuff in here in a minute, because I am a true sicko in every sense of the word. Adam, any final words you want to say here? And I'll get with you about schedule stuff for the rest of the week and see what you're looking like.
Yeah, no final words for me. Usually I do some sort of rant here, but this bracket, I don't really see as much controversy. I love to find controversy. I love to complain about things. I love to debate things. I love to rant about things, but I don't really have anything. I mean, maybe if I look it over I'll find something a little later. But I kind of like this bracket. I think the teams that got in probably should. There's nothing egregious. So I'll just look forward to hopefully jumping on a show with you later in the week. I should be available pretty much anytime you want me to come on. I will make some time. And in a couple of days, we'll be looking at that 16-game slate and getting this tournament underway.
Can't wait, man. Can't wait. We'll be Tuesday through Sunday, and by the end of it, we'll be looking forward to a couple of days off. But it's crazy how fast this season went. Actually kind of sad at the same time, but very excited for these opportunities. 10K to first prize pools and everything in between. Mania going on for some people, and they're going to be doing a lot of other big tournaments. Hopefully they do Survivors this year. The guys on CBS already picking their Final Fours, all the 1 seeds, really going out on a limb there, right? No, I appreciate everybody who tuned in live. This is our first look here. Back tomorrow night with some more talk on the matchups and the play-in slates. Adam, thank you very much. And everybody who continues to support the show. On the way out the door, please make sure you hit the likes, retweets, and repost, all of that stuff. Social currency helps us a tremendous amount. We'll see you next time tomorrow night on the Super Show. Take care, everybody.